Hey, Gabriel Lake.
Hey, Gaybros, Jose.
Where are we today?
I'm in San Francisco.
And
You're
I'm-
in Chicago.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking for me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
you asked me, where are we? I couldn't just say where I am.
But you gave like a dramatic pause. I thought that it's like, okay, now I can speak for myself. But it's like, no, we are like back in the 40s and I'm supposed to be the woman.
And you're the woman in our relationship. We respect women.
We do. It's like we know that it's 2020. They can speak for themselves, and they will. But yeah, that's actually a good like it's called segue.
Segue, yeah.
Yeah, like a good segue into what did we watch this time.
We watched the movie from the 40s that most people probably have heard of called Casablanca.
I like that.
Starring Bergman and... That was a joke. It's Ingrid Bergman.
I had to say that like, every single time that I see her name, I had to say like, wait, is that the director? No, it's Ingrid, not Ingmar.
You have no idea. When I was really into my Ingmar Bergman phase, I rented a movie by accident that had Ingrid Bergman, and I was so disappointed when I watched it.
I'm not saying that she's bad. I mean, she's a good actress, but it's probably not the type of cinema. There is not too much overlap between both Bergman fans.
They only did one movie together, and it was the only film that he did outside of Denmark. Is that where he's from?
You tell me, he's your favorite director.
Serpent's Egg, and it starred David Carradine, who later died from autoerotic asphyxiation.
I thought that you were going to say it's like he was in Kill Bill, but it's like no, we rather like just remember him for that. Like autoerotic asphyxiation. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, the guy who stars in who is Bill.
Yeah, exactly, and Kill Bill. No, that's good. And this was actually my pick. And the reason why I pick it is because I hated Mommy Dearest so much. I felt like personally insulted. It's like with my tolerance for big Hollywood studio movies, because I think that they are not perfect. They use melodrama quite a bit, but they did good stuff. And it's like Mommy Dearest felt almost like the culmination. Or it's like, hey, we can still do like a big Hollywood studio movie. And it was such a piece of garbage that is that I wanted to go back to something classic, something that is like 100% big studio Hollywood, and that is universally acclaimed as this is a good movie. And that was Casablanca.
For good reasons. I support that 100%. And I'm sorry about Mommy Dearest.
It's fine. We got it out of our system. It's something that I heard like multiple times, like mentions in the past, and I was never courageous enough for just watching it. So I say
you're welcome for Mommy Dearest.
I was going to say, so thank you, Blake, for just pushing my boundaries, for just watching fucking terrible cinema.
And I'm still not letting you speak for yourself. I apologize.
It's fine. You're just a 2020 male.
Let me mansplain some things to you.
Okay, so as this was my pick, it's your turn to actually explain to me what this movie is about.
That's a lot of pressure because I'm not going to remember the names of anyone. But it is World War II. It takes place in where?
41 in Casablanca. In Morocco.
Yes. France isn't involved in the war yet, and Morocco is a territory of France.
No, it's occupied already. It's like France was one of the first countries to fall because they invested like most of their efforts into just building this defense line. That it was the Maginot Line that they don't mention in the movie, but it's like this is something that I always found like fascinating. Is that it was like just underground covers, like just anti-air supplies. They spent like a lot of money on just preparing this when they were like, oh, the Nazis are coming, let's do this. But the thing is that they didn't cover a part of it, that it was with Belgium. It's like, Belgium is associated with us. It's like, it's fine, they're never going to be like entered through this. So they the Nazis occupied Belgium and they just basically walked by into France. Yep. And then 2 days later, they were in Paris. It's like, yep, we're here. It's like, there was no one, in the door. So we're just walking. So it's already occupied. They actually, a part of the story is about how the Nazis are getting to Paris. But it was like the previous day they caught in Belgium, and the following day they were there.
So obviously I missed some context from the war.
Okay.
But Morocco is a place where basically it's a territory of France. A lot of expatriates had gone there as kind of a safer place than Europe, which was being destroyed by Germany, Austria. And we meet a guy named Rick. Rick is a man. I love when there's that army guy and he's like, if I were a woman, I would be in love with him. Like,
no. If I was a woman, I couldn't fall in love with myself, I would be in love with him. I love like that kind of, like nuance to it. It's like, oh my God, all of you are jerks.
So he runs a saloon / like secretive casino. It's not that secret. Like, and there are 2 German journalists that are apparently murdered, and on them they had papers that basically gave freedom to go wherever anywhere. I think they mentioned Europe specifically, but I'm guessing America. Yeah. And there's all of these expatriates waiting in Morocco to be able to get to the States, and they end up in his hands. I don't think it's that important how. And he's very secretive about it. And then into his bar, of all the gin joints in the world, he walks into the love of his life that he met in Paris. They were supposed to run away together, and she just disappeared, and he never understood why.
Yeah, he basically ghosted him.
Yeah, like the 1940s, left on red.
So actually, you said that it's not important how the papers got in his hand, but the papers got handed by the guy that plays the murderer, the kid murderer in M by Friesland, Peter True.
Whoa! I didn't even put that together, but now that you say it, I can see it.
Yep, is that this kind of very like jumpy eyes, is like just a very, very specific face. And it's like I realized that Peter True, that sounds like pretty familiar when he actually was on my screen. It's like, oh my God, that's the guy from M.
All right, so still not that important, but interesting.
Okay, yeah, he's only like for 3 minutes on the screen.
So his ex-girlfriend, that Ilsa, she kind of, they try to connect, and he's really, his entire personality has become super jaded because he left her. Yep. She tries to connect and explain, he kind of rejects her, and they finally end up connecting. And what happened was her husband, who was from Czechoslovakia, she thought he was killed when actually he was in hiding, and so she fell in love with Rick when they were in Paris, and then she found out he was alive, and she went to go take care of him or find him.
He was actually on a concentration camp, as he was you, and he actually ran away from the concentration camp. But the news were like he got killed while he was trying to run away.
Yeah, so she thought he was dead. That's why she fell in love with Rick. And so she ends up begging for the papers. Well, she ends up holding him at gunpoint, demanding the papers. She can't do it because she loves him. So she says, hey, please save my husband. He's a very important human rights activist, I would say. They wanted him to continue the work he's doing.
He's a bit more of a guerrilla fight, not a guerrilla, but a bit more of like underground resistance leader. Like he can actually just rally the troops.
Really at the UN, and this is like, I don't know, like whatever. It doesn't matter. And then the husband ends up begging him for the papers and says, just take her away and be safe. He ultimately tells Ilsa that her husband can have one of the papers and she's going to stay with him. And then ultimately he asked them both to get on the plane, and they fly away to...
Yeah. Victor Laszlo, that is the husband of Ingrid Bergman. I always have to think it's like Ilsa. Okay, let's just say Ilsa, so we don't actually make like a Bergman confusion here. He's very honorable. Is that there is even a point that he asked his wife about like, did you do anything with him while I was out? He's like, no. He's like, well, I know what loneliness can make you do. He's like, no, I didn't. There is a bit more of a denying, but it's at the same time it's a bit more. It's like, look, I know it. There is fine. He never actually says something that is like, I'm going to be like leaving my wife here. He's like very honorable about that. That I think that is like, okay, that's good. Something that I found fascinating about this movie, but then there is like the drawback. There is Elsa's role is that she actually had an affair with someone while she thought that her husband was dead. No one tries to guilt her into that. No one throws that in her face about like that's adultery. No one says anything about it. Everyone is like understanding about like, hey, look, I know you were married, you didn't want to share that, and you thought that it was dead. So, but then also his husband is like also fine with it, understand that hey, you were lonely, I was supposed to be dead. It's fine. It's like it's a bit more in between two sides about like, I don't know what to do. I really love this guy, but also at the same time it's a bit more circumstantial because I thought that my husband was dead, but we had like such a good chemistry. No one says like, hey, you're a slut. No one. There is no judgment to her. That I love.
And why do you think that is?
I love it. I mean, I feel like that's super progressist. Is that because usually the men usually like they're just pretty judgmental about like you did that, you were supposed to not ever have sex with anyone, you know? And it's like no, there is absolutely like just no judgment whatsoever. Now, on the other hand, the part that I feel like pretty infuriated about is when she goes like with the gang to actually ask for the papers, and she's recognized that, hey, look, I cannot suit you for the papers because I'm still in love with you. Is that I don't know what to do, and is that I understand the conundrum that she is in. That is that you are in between two walls, and it's like it's impossible to actually compare like the person that you married because you met him when you were little, and the other guy that is like completely different. And it was a bit more of a liberation kind of thing, you know, about like just not thinking about ideology or anything. It's about like let's enjoy this moment now. And then he says this like, don't worry, it's fine. No, she actually says like, I need you to actually think for me. I need you to tell me what to do. And that part I feel is a fuck. Is that's not okay. You know, that from today's standard about like the woman says like, this is too hard. I don't know what to do. Just tell me, you know, I just want to be in your hands for just deciding, but I really love you.
So I will agree with you that it's problematic to make the woman that person. But I actually really related to that scene as a gay man married to a man. They're like, I understand that exhaustion and being torn and like war just has changed everything. And that's one of the themes that I think was so great. And that's why they didn't like call her an adulterer. It's because like war shifted almost everything besides right and wrong, right?
Yep.
And so when she did that, I imagined, literally, I'm not making this up, I imagined myself in my husband's arms and just being exhausted and not knowing what the right thing to do is, and just being like, this is in your hands. Take
but
it.
Don't you think that is like, that's your feelings, that's your future, is that you decide that. You cannot hand it to anyone else. It's like no one knows how you feel. No one knows if actually your love for Victor Laszlo is more important for you as a human being than your love for Rick. It's like that's your call. No one else, because no one else is going to be like a bias as you are. Is that you know what is better for you. Is that everyone else from Victor and Rick is that they're going to have like a preference about that.
But what I take away from it is that she loved them both deeply, and I felt like she proved that throughout, that she really did love them, and she was being forced to choose between these two men that she loved, and she's like, I can't do it. So yes, Rick is going to have a bias. Well, it turns out he did not have a biased response because he did the right thing. But I get it. Like, don't make me choose between these two men that are super important to me.
Look, I felt at that point is that this is the bad melodrama stuff coming through.
That scene was definitely the product of being a movie in the 40s, a big studio movie in the 40s for sure.
And before we start recording, it's like there are like sometimes that Hollywood revisit their own classics, because sometimes they just run completely, sometimes all the time they run out of ideas and they want to remake like classic stuff. And there are like two potential outcomes. It's like this is too close to the one, so why the fuck did you do it? Like Psycho by Gus Van Sant.
Or Funny Games.
The funny case, but it's the same director. It's like you can just do it from the perspective that, look, I don't want to dub the actors from the Austrian version, so here you go, Naomi Watts. It's like it's saying the same, but it's the same movie. But you don't have to read. Now this is mainstream.
God, Americans are awful.
Yeah. And then you have the other potential outcome that is like you remake it and you just take like too many freedom, like creative freedom about like I'm going to be like just using the original elements and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, and then people are going to be like criticizing you about like why did you do this? Is that this is not respectful enough with the original work. So remaking Casablanca would be impossible. It's like everyone knows this movie. It's like if you like cinema, you have watched it. I'm not saying that you're going to love it, but it's like if you have an interest for cinema, for American cinema, you're going to watch it.
Okay, I don't disagree with you, but I think, like, I'm thinking about everybody my age in America. What percent? I'm guessing it's like what 5% that's seen it, maybe less.
They don't like cinema. They like Hollywood blockbusters.
If you love cinema, then you absolutely.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like if you actually like cinema, you are going to be like making an effort for just watching classic cinema that it actually inform where cinema went afterwards. And it's like Casablanca is a reference. It's like Casablanca and Citizen Kane is that they're like two movies from like from the 30s to the 50s that is like you need to watch.
And in my mind, they're always paired. It's like a couple. Like the two greatest movies, Casablanca and Citizen Kane. And that's a very like American-centric view. I understand, but
it is fine. It's still fine. It's like, is that the kind of mediums and the kind of budget that they will have here is like vastly superior where you have like in any other country in the world. I'm not saying that the quality was better. I'm just saying that it's like the end product is like it was significantly better. It's like just trying to watch like a sci-fi movie from, I don't know, South Africa, because people could say actually District 9, that is like, okay, the special effects are going to be a bit more modest, but the story could be good. It's like in this case, it's like, look, everything is good. It's not going to be exceptional.
Did you think they were in a town, or was that all sets? Because
they were all
sets.
There's a
scene where there's like monkeys and there's so many extras. I was like, is this a set? Did they build this? This is insane.
It's big studio Hollywood for you. She's like, they will reuse it, in then like 20 other movies, like mediocre movies that half of the people didn't watch, but it's like, it's what it used to do. It's like, we would actually just build everything. Everything is smoke and mirrors. It's like, it's just about like creating the illusion, not about like just building the reality. So from that perspective, if this movie were to be remade right now, it couldn't be remade respecting like some of these key points in the movie. It's like, Ingrid Bergman also could actually go to visit Rick, but she would never say something as dumb, and sorry for this, as dumb, but it's like, I cannot decide, you have to decide for me. It's like, you are never going to be like letting a party that is not going to be impartial about the decision decide for me, because you're already deciding, you want that guy. So just fucking shut up, and just even kill your husband if you want.
I can't tell if I'm being misogynistic or not, but I just feel like, I don't know, I just respected her so much because she fought for the right thing. She fought for the happiness, well, not the happiness, but the continued living for both of them. Like, she really was altruistic, and it's not like she was this damsel in distress. Ultimately, yes, she was like, you have to save me, and that is disappointing. Yeah. But it's not like she was some stupid broad who was like, there's a war, what do I do? I'm in love.
Well, I mean, the thing is that she actually took a decision when she was in Paris, when she was like, hey, your husband is still alive. Now that we can actually just connect, is that we can tell you that your husband actually is still alive. And she was like, yeah, I will see you later. Just play it, Sam. And is that they play as time goes by, that they play 18 times, but it's not as bad as the Marseillaise that they play like 30 times. But
the music annoyed the shit out of me in this film.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's another topic that I want to get to. But it's like, at that point, it's a bit more, it's like, she made a decision. And then when she actually sees Rick again is when she regrets it.
But honestly, can't you, like, can't you connect with that as a human being? Like you're off with this person and you see again this person you fell in love with and you're conflicted.
Wait a second. If you actually fall in love with someone, don't you feel like you owe that person the reality? Or it's like, hey, look, my husband, I never told you this, but I'm married, and actually my husband was supposed to be dead. They just told me this morning that he's alive. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's the point of saying, like, I don't know what to do, and I love you so much that I think that you understand me well enough and you care deeply enough about me that you're going to be like helping me to make the right decision. Not like
shallowness to the script.
Not 2 years later they say, I don't know, I'm dumb. I'm a woman. That's the part that I felt is like, God, you were doing so well. I have forgotten this part. That is that this is that just, it turns her into a damsel in distress. It turns them into an accessory.
I see everything you're saying. I do.
Yeah.
And I think I just identify as a woman. So I was like, yeah, I get her. You slay queen.
Okay.
I get it. You're completely. And I will say this is a fantastic movie, but it is also a product of its time.
Yeah. And that's the part that is like, as I was telling you, is like if it was going to be like remade right now, there would be like just many things that they would change. You know, there would be like just key points on the story that is like you cannot go with this.
I don't know why, but in my mind, when I imagined it, like being remade, I imagine Jason Bourne, like that sort of, like that's how they would remake it. It would be less about love and more about like the, you know, murdered German tour or journalists and
No, it's what I told you before we started recording, is that I think that this is a perfect Wes Anderson movie. Is that the script as we watch adaptation, they mention like multiple times that is like the script of Casablanca is perfect. I don't think that it's perfect, but it's pretty snappy. Is there like very back and forth that is like, okay, that was good. That was smart, but nowadays standards, you know?
Yeah, and the number of phrases that work
Quotes.
their way permanently into American vocabulary. I don't know about Spanish vocabulary, but it's so quotable for people who haven't even seen it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's solid. It's like the script is like really, really solid. You know, like parts of it stands the passage of time. You know, other parts are like, as we are in 2021, if we had recorded this like 5 years ago, maybe I would say that no, it's fine. You know, yes, of course, yeah, the woman is dumb. Is that's you know, it's acceptable, it's expected. Is that the product of its time? And I would be like just looking away from it, just with that.
I don't know why I have all these resistances to call her dumb, and I must see myself in her, and that's why I don't want to. I saw her as a very brave person.
I mean, the problem is like he's not a full-fledged human being. It's like parts of what she does. He's smart, and it's actually like you are resilient. It's like you just lost your husband, but you don't want to close yourself up, but you are like protective. What is your reality? And then in a situation like this, is like instead of actually saying that, look, fuck you, Rick. I'm sorry. It's like, I should have told you this. I wasn't ready. It's not your fault. It's my fault, but I take responsibility for this. I love my husband. My husband is like the most important person in my life. And from that perspective, I need him and I need to get out of here. I owe him that. She could have said that. And it's like, and if Rick says like, oh, no, I do just shoot him, it's like, I would just search your house. I search your body.
You have a fair point. And any like emotionally intelligent or even just mature person would have been like, I had no idea he's alive. You have to understand. I'm gonna go to him.
Yeah.
Rick, if he loved her, would have been like, go to your husband.
Exactly. If they actually presented as this kind of extremely romantic character, if she had told him when they were in Paris that is like, look, I cannot live today. I just heard news of this. I know it's devastating, but I don't want to fucking ghost you. It's that you don't ghost someone that you are saying that you love so much.
Yeah, no, I agree. Would you consider this just a weakness in the script, a plot hole, relying on stereotypes?
It's a weakness. I mean, it's true that it's a weakness. It's relying on the melodrama, the strong melodrama of the time. But the problem is like, it's a key point in the movie. That's the reason why it's like, I don't think that this could be remade today and still be in Casablanca.
Yeah, they would have to make serious alterations to the script.
Yeah, because let me ask you something. What is the genre? If you can only use one word to define the genre of this movie. Not two, drama, just a drama. It's not a noir movie. Or a thriller.
It's like in the same universe, but no.
Exactly. That's the thing. Is like for me is that there are like many elements that they're like, okay, this could be a noir, but is that there is no like a femme fatale role. Is like she's very, I don't know how to say this, sheepish, you know, like a sheep. There is not.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like it's a bit more. It's like there is like elements that they're missing here. It's a thriller. It's like there is never like a. You always know all the information. There is no like.
Yeah, it's never like tense.
Yeah.
There's no like high energy moments. It's all just a lot of like beautiful people talking in a bar. Like
yeah, it's romantic drama.
Yeah.
In the setting of World War II.
Yep.
And from that perspective, it feels such a weird movie, you know, that is like is as you said, it's like just completely self-contained in time. It's a product of its time, but it's like it's a movie that it would never be remade. Not because of the importance that it had, but it's a bit more. It's like this was a miracle when
this
it happened.
Can't exist outside of being produced in 1940.
And the thing is, like, it was. I think the script was written in 1941. It was released at the end of 1942, like globally in 1943. But the thing is, like, USA, it didn't take part into the war. It didn't take sides until late 42. So when this movie came out, it's like. If you actually analyze it, is that they mentioned several times about like the USA hasn't done anything. They are not actively.
They were considered very neutral. They say that over the time, people are desperate to get to neutral America.
Correct, but is that at that point they just made the step towards because the Pearl Harbor bombing was in November of 42. So we're like just at that time, is like that's the part I feel like wow, that was like pretty ballsy making a war movie when the States haven't taken a side, but you see there is like Nazis are fucking terrible, and Hollywood is taking a stance about that.
Yeah, I actually read an interesting article about the film today that like this was basically Hollywood telling the US government you need to get fucking involved. Like this is crazy. And it seemed to kind of work.
Well, maybe more Pearl Harbor. Maybe more Pearl Harbor. I'm sorry. It's like I'm not saying about like this movie that it was not like impactful. It's like I think that without Pearl Harbor, this movie alone
would have been enough.
No, I don't think so. You know, it's like Ingrid Bergman saying, "It's like I'm done. Think about me." It's like I don't think and think for me. It's like I don't think that would have been enough. You know, it's like. But right. it was a good, you know, it was a good exercise.
But can you imagine a Hollywood picture trying to pressure the government today to take part in any conflict? It only is the opposite. Like, stay the fuck out of that conflict, government.
True, but is that to be completely frank, is that after World War II, the States, they actually saw the benefit of actually taking part in conflicts. And they were like very proactive about like getting themselves into conflict. Like for example, Afghanistan.
Let's not.
Okay.
For those of you in the future, Afghanistan was just taken over, but you're not hearing this from us.
Yeah, it's like basically they announced that it's like, okay, yeah, we are leaving, you know, and it's like 2 days later, it's like the Taliban's just taking over the whole country.
And I love how it's like this discussion about whether it's Trump's fault or Biden's fault, when it's George W. Bush's fault.
Yeah, it's like you shouldn't have started this in this kind of way. It's like, what the fuck were you expecting to happen? Is that you are like just fighting against? Doesn't matter.
Let's not. This is a movie podcast.
Now, the other thing that I was actually just joking is like at that point we were at the beginning, quote unquote, of the war. You know, it's like the States haven't been involved yet. It hasn't like just turned into a global war. I mean, it's mostly in Europe. Japan was like just, you know, allied with the Nazis because they were terrible too. But I think that Argentina was also involved at that point. It was like fairly big at that point. But the funny thing is like what they say is like Victor Laszlo is important because he can actually lead a mental change and just rally people for an underground battle. Is that they actually advocated for is that this war is going to be won through a guerrilla style. And he said, no, the Nazis have like such a technological superiority to everything else right now that this makes no sense. Honestly, is that you should actually say, like, look, the only reason why Victor Laszlo need to run to the States is for just rallying the United States, that they're like the second world power right now when it comes to technology, for actually just getting involved in this war.
And I don't know the specific dates of that war, but also like 25 million Russians were dying.
Yep.
Like this little like freedom fighter clearly was not going to have any effect. Yes, you're right. That's a weak spot.
Yeah. It was a bit more as like, seriously? I mean, the script was wrote in 41, and the Nazis already took over Austria. They already took over France with no effort. It's pretty clear that they're like superior. They haven't took over UK because they didn't, but they actually bombed London. It's like, but you think that this is the state? And they're actually, the reason why they go to Portugal is because Spain is like, it was actually supporters of the Nazis, and Italy they were too, so it's like Europe is screwed, completely screwed. Only UK remains and is not strong enough for actually just like take a stand against the Nazis.
It is interesting that this film is so American centric, and of course it's an American film made for an American audience, but they really just don't regard any other sort of nationality as being important besides like the SS. They're bad, and people apparently like to be in France, and they're upset they can't be in France now.
Okay, let's just say that at least the character, I like that they actually mention a couple of things about Rick's character, but they never mention about like why isn't he allowed back in the States.
They circle that subject many, many, many times, and they also circle about how he fought in the Spanish Revolution or the Spanish Civil War.
Civil War, yeah.
The Ethiopian, he brought guns into Ethiopia when they had a war.
Yeah.
But yeah, they never say what.
They don't say exactly what he did to actually piece up like the American government,
Which it must be pretty bad. I mean.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Ernest Hemingway, he actually also fought in the Civil War, and he was never like says like, oh no, we don't want Ernest Hemingway. Fuck him. He's like, we don't care about what he wrote.
Don't come back here, Ernest.
Exactly. He's like, you're a pariah to us. You're dead to us now. So there are like several things that I feel is that okay, it's cool to hear all of these, and it's cool not only from the perspective of like being a European and hearing all of this. It's a bit more about like Hollywood. Not looking at their belly button about like we only care about ourselves. That is like I love that I love Sunset Boulevard with all my heart, but it's still like Hollywood looking at Hollywood. But through the prism of Billy Wilder, it's like we're going to be like looking at a rotten belly button. Like, but this movie is a bit more is that there is a wall out there. There is a war and there is a world out there.
But in fairness, it's pretty accurate. Like when Americans go to other countries, they just think about Americans. Like they think they're the shit. They're the only thing that matters.
True, but it's like at that point, it's like Europe was in disarray. If the country hadn't fallen already, it was about to. Is that the Nazis were around the corner? It's like it was like pretty. It's not like just saying it's like, oh my god, there is starting to be like a. How do you say like a. Nazis are starting in Wisconsin, a random state. Sorry, if you're from Wisconsin, but I think that is feasible.
They want to cheat, Wisconsin.
Exactly. So if you are like a close state, it's going to be like fairly easy for them to actually take over that state. No?
Yeah.
That's the thing with Europe and with Germany is that Germany is in the center of Europe. So it's like if they have superiority from a military perspective, they can take over everything. It's like your idea is about like just running away somewhere else. And where are you going to be like running? India? Africa? It's like Morocco is like the only place that you're going to be like running to the States.
Yeah, because that's the closest neutral place, right?
Neutral place that doesn't support and is not going to support the Nazis. Even if they don't take, if even they didn't take a place on World War II, is that they could still not support the Nazis.
So when did Stalin go back on his agreement with Hitler
wasn't it the other way around?
No. Stalin came. I'm gonna embarrass myself. Let's not talk about this. But at some point they were allies, and then they became enemies. So I feel like Russia would have been the obvious place to go. It's right there.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, until I think that it was at the end of '44 because it was the Stalingrad battle where the Nazis.
That's why. So Russia was not neutral, and they were pro-Nazis at the time.
Exactly, they were pro-Nazis, and it was I think that it was a bit more like the Nazis saying, like, "Hey, look, at the end, we want to be the one dominating the war. It's not about like the Russians being with us. It's like we want to dominate all this fucking thing." So this is like, should we wait until we take over everything, or should we start acting now? You know. And it's like, I think that they went like too early about like betraying them, and that's the reason is that I don't know it either. But it's like it was a bit more about like just the Stalingrad battle. It was like the one that it was pretty bad for the Nazis because it was like an extremely colder winter than expected that year. Yeah, and it was like they were not ready for that. And it's true that is that the Russians won because like we have more people, so we can just.
Did the Russians win because they lost 25 million men, like by far the greatest of any war ever. They got hard.
But they have more people, you know. From that perspective, it's like we can just outnumber you. It's like we don't need to kill the same number of people that they're going to be like dying from our side. It's like we just need to kill you. That's it.
Fun fact, when I lived in St. Petersburg, there were all sorts of antique shops that they would go out and use metal detectors in the forests, and they would just find all sorts of Nazi stuff.
Oh god, that's fucking disturbing. But
it's horrific.
Did you buy anything?
I didn't, because I find it really disgusting. I mean, I wanted to because I understand the morbid fascination. There was a needle injection, like we use disposable like syringes now, but there was a glass one that had the Nazi symbol, and I was like, this is such a significant piece of history, and I was like, no. Plus I think it's illegal to bring into the States. Probably
yeah, but it's horrific and at the same time fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big piece of modern history. It's an enormous piece.
Yeah, I think that is like basically that's the definition that I could use for all Russia. Is like at the same time disturbing and fascinating.
Yeah, that was my experience for sure.
So overall, I really like this movie. I went actually to one of these like movies at the park event, and I thought this is going to be like a train wreck. It was. I'm sorry to say this because for the audience, like he's like just shaking his head, just like reproaching it to me. He's like, and you didn't do it with me. It was fucking awesome. I had to say it. Is that we had like our picnic area, you know, there was like a gay couple in front of us that they even had like wine, you know, like in the decanters and everything. It was like, this is like the most boss experience that I've ever seen in my life.
Good for you, Jose. That's great.
Yeah, we had like we had like a cheese table and everything. Sorry. So it was pretty cool. I mean, they actually play like a lot of modern classics like Black Panther, and then they have like real classics like Casablanca. And now I'm wondering, like, should we watch like if we are still like when I'm really old, I'm not going to say my age, when I'm really old, should we watch like 40 years in the future Black Panther?
I'm going to put it in our Google Calendar right now. Like 2060?
2060 or 2059. Yeah, it's fine. It doesn't have to be like exactly 40 years. But I love it because there were a lot of people. I thought it's like, okay, there are like two options. There's going to be like plenty of families with kids, but like it's free cinema. And there's the other option that is like, we are going to be alone. And no, there were like plenty of people that is like, we're watching this because it's a good movie.
That makes me really happy, to be honest. And yes, I did get jealous about your evening, and I even messaged you about it. I will say that, so I've seen Casablanca 5 or 6 times, realistically, and I've always been just a tiny bit disappointed, not in the quality of the film, but it just has a hard time living up to the greatest film ever made, or one of the best films ever made. Yeah. And this time, I just found it to be like deep, not all the time because some of the characters are shallow, like you said, but like the themes that are explored, I found it very rewarding. I found the filmmaking to be very I wanted to say even keeled, but I would say exceptional in the balance and the way it approaches the material. Like even discussing these shallow characters, I said I can see it from their point of view. It's all very subjective, and I really, really appreciated. Like for me this time, the thing that really hit me was like stripping away patriotism or basically everything that war does. It changes the perspective on everything about whether it's, sleeping with a man who isn't your husband because you think he's dead and then rejoining him in another country and the willingness to self-sacrifice. It was all very touching this time, and it hasn't been that way in the past. So I enjoyed it. This isn't my particular type of film, but I definitely saw a lot that I loved about it.
Yeah. So I think that I told you a friend of mine here in Chicago, his favorite movie is Fight Club. So we're talking about it, and he was saying that, look, every single time that I watch this movie, and I watch it like 100 times, I decide what genre is it going to be. Is it going to be a rom-com? Is it going to be a thriller? Is it going to be an action movie? And I try to just focus myself on only like the parts that I read. And that's the reason why I was asking you earlier about like defining it just with a single word, because I think that this movie actually gives several genres, but it doesn't feel like a clusterfuck. It feels a bit more. It's like I could rewatch it again and just like a rom-com. There is actually like quite a bit of comedy on it. It's true that it's not like between the couple, but it's like there is quite a bit of comedy around. And it's like properly timed. It's that there are like several times that the whole audience were like just laughing. That is like, oh, that's good. There was a joke that it was a bit more about like how dumb Americans were, and no one laughed at that one. There was a bit more of silence. It's like only me and my partner laugh about like, oh, okay, yeah, we're not American. We can laugh about this.
There were a few jokes. I was actually very impressed because I laughed out loud. Like they were so absurd, and I was like, this feels like fresh comedy. Like it's not a comedy, but they're like the sense of humor that stands the test of time.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I think that there is a dynamism when they drop all the melodrama. I think that dynamism is what Wes Anderson could actually exploit. And I think that it could be, I would love it, honestly. It's like just turning like this black and white, extremely iconic movie into this kind of explosion of colors and this cinematography that is like, it's so by the book. I'm curious. Imagine like Rick played by Bill Murray.
Say that one more time.
Imagine Rick played by Bill Murray. And Scarlett Johansson can be Bergman.
That's actually a really fun game to cast this film with today's actors.
But we had, the reason why I was going with Wes Anderson is because he has like very fetish cast.
See, but if I were to cast or assign a director to this, it would be more like Catherine Bigelow.
Because she wrote that 30 just gave you trust that she's going to be like doing a good adaptation.
Because for me, I would want the war to be gritty and realistic. And what this film did, and this is not a complaint about the film, but they completely whitewashed this. They showed just the very upper class in Morocco having drinks and dinner and trying to get back.
The war wasn't there. That's the interesting part. Is like, it's the fear of the war, but you never see it. It's like they don't want to be trapped in the war. They ran away from it. So they had the reality of Morocco. They're like just exiled. Is that you only know that they fear something back then that they don't want to go to.
But you see dramatic moments where like the police or whoever burst into Rick's bar and they arrest somebody and there's gunshots and like the final moments where they fly off in the plane, that's fairly dramatic. Like it reminded me actually of Indiana Jones 4.
Oh yeah, they're like, well, no, don't say that. That doesn't exist. But what I mean is that they actually are trying to reveal that kind of fancy life that they could have when they leave the States. Is that when you're American, especially on that time, if you travel anywhere else, is like your dollars, they can carry you like a really long way, So from that perspective, it's like they are trying to live like a Dolce Vita kind of life in there, but they are like just they're escaping. They're being like, how do you say? When
refugees?
You're like, not really refugees, but it's that you're like just trying to deny. They're denying what is the reality. Is that they're like in there in Morocco, in Casablanca, and some of them they are like just scrapping by for just getting away from it, and they're like just a bit more of a transition spot. But it's that there is no war. The only thing that you have is the Nazis tries to capture like some of these people, trying to hunt as many of them with whatever excuse that they can come up.
That was actually very nice image when you said this is L'Avventura, but in war. Like, I would love to see L'Avventura in a war context.
I say Dolce Vita. I didn't say L'Avventura.
Wow, I heard L'Avventura because
It's Italian. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's close enough. But it's the same thing. It's about like crap. It's like just being like escaping from reality. A part of them about like there like has to be like some people that they never really like develop, but is that they're like just capturing this kind of limbo about like this is our life now. Is that we don't want to think about the war, and we know that we cannot go to a safe haven. Is that so we are in this limbo that one day may actually just fall apart.
I did find that very interesting from today's perspective, that all of those people trying to get to America, not all of them were Americans, but many of them were.
Yeah.
They were the refugees, and they were the ones that couldn't get out of whatever shitty like situation they were in. And I was like, wow.
Yep.
Empathy, right?
Am I right? Hashtag empathy. And that part I think that is like just pretty fascinating. But it's like I think that a remake actually nowadays, if it's a real remake, not with Catherine Bigelow because she's like more American than anyone, is like I think that they could actually just like dig a bit deeper into that about like what is the reality of this world. Is it actually a limbo? Is it actually like a pit stop in between? What is this? Because it's a fake reality. It's like people are running away from something terrible, and they're like just in a place that something terrible may happen tomorrow, because the war may have jumped into North Africa. It didn't, but it could have.
And that's why I said I wanted someone like Catherine Bigelow to redirect it, because like it's not glamorous hiding in a North African country trying to get back to your home where you won't be hunted down by Germans. Like, this is a horrific situation. And that's what I feel is missing a little bit. Not that it takes away from how good this film is, but it's like, when you're a refugee, it's not glamorous gambling in a swanky joint owned by Rick in Casablanca.
It's nihilistic. Honestly, it's completely nihilistic. It's like, what else are you going to do? Is that you're just waiting for a solution that is never going to happen because it's out of your hands. Is that for some of those people, they are like just in a purgatory that is never going to be like movie.
Yes, but imagine like literally what's happening in Afghanistan. Like, there are incredibly wealthy people that are the same people fleeing for the American aircrafts trying to get out. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I would like this to be a little bit more realistic about what war is.
But it's not war. It's that the war didn't get to Morocco. That's the thing. It's like, that's the interesting part. Is that they are in a place that war didn't get to, and you only live by the rumors of what the situation is. You live in this kind of uncertainty about like what is going to happen. It's like, we don't know it. The Nazis may actually just come here. They may actually take Morocco. We don't know. Is that they are just focusing the rest of Europe, but if they actually take over Morocco, we are fucked. That's the reason what they say about like occupy France and Vichy at the end. Is a bit more like, look, the French, they don't want this, and that's the reason why the movie has like one of the sound motifs, like the Marseillaise, about for defending like the independence of France. It's almost like just Hollywood looking at France and say like, you have to fight back. You fucked up, but it's that you have to fight back. Instead of saying it's like, we do have to go there and just helping them recover.
You're right about this being like a very different space than a war space, 100%. Like, I think that was clearly a point, is that they're in like a safe place that might not be safe in the future.
Correct. It's a bit more of an uncertainty, and that's the thing, is that I wish that they explore more stories there, because the story with Ingrid Bergman is a bit more is that we just arrived, we need to get out right now, because the whole story takes place over the course of 5 days?
At most. It's a very fast moving film.
Yeah.
Very slow moving, I guess. Real time.
Yeah, so from that perspective, is that I think that there are more stories there. It's a reality in time that it has never happened again. Because when you were saying about Afghan, is that they can just move to other country and they can just come back to the States. Is that we live in a different reality now. As long as they can actually get away from it, there is no like purgatory kind of a state. Is that you are going to go back to the States.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit difficult to apply Casablanca to what's happening in Afghanistan. And I'm sorry for bringing that up.
No. I think that is interesting because it's like but I think that the reality right now is not the same. Is that the world is in a different point. The world is in a different state. But this movie, I still feel like it's pretty ballsy. It's like this was actually released in 42, early 43. It's like,
I think it was 42 in America. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Is that the States, they just got like hit in Pearl Harbor like towards the end of 42. I don't know if this was like just before or after. And it's like this tries to be a bit more of a wake-up call, but not a wake-up call. It was a bit more like you guys put together like this. Let me just give you an example, like just going back to Mommy Dearest. It's like Mommy Dearest is that the book like came up in 84 and the movie came up in 85. The script was written for Casablanca in 41 and it came up in 42, and it's like so fucking timely in comparison that is like this is a complete script that it tells a good story that is like super relevant to that moment. With Mommy Dearest, like what the fuck were you thinking? You're trying to just do like a quick run.
Incredibly timely, but I would argue it's incredibly timeless as well.
Oh yeah. There are like problems with it, but it's like the values that they actually try to display. Is like this is good. This is like a really fucking amazing story. It's like it's
also pretty overtly racist, but we look past that.
Why racist?
The black man playing the piano, who basically isn't allowed to do anything but
answer. The only black guy. There is only one black guy in the whole movie.
And they're in Africa.
That's true. Yep. And it's like, well, I mean, they're in Africa. They are in a studio in Los Angeles. Let's be fair.
Yes.
That part I always feel is like, so what was Sam doing to begin with in Paris?
And why was he following Rick? Not Ilsa. He followed Rick to Morocco. Was there something going on?
I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why he actually was like, Ilsa, let's go. No, now that I tried.
Sam and I are going to Morocco. You stay.
Exactly. Should we go over the questions?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So sorry that I had like the open. Casablanca. Sorry to the audience for being like just embarrassing here. Would you watch it again?
Yeah, I will watch this several more times in my lifetime.
Yeah, I think so. I think that this is a movie that is almost 2 hours, I think, or 2 hours.
It's interesting because I wanted to see the time to complain to you about how long it was, but when I started it didn't matter. I didn't care. Like it could be as long as it wanted. I was super engaged with the story.
1 hour 43 minutes. It's like it just passed by. I think that's like the sign of this script is really good.
Yep.
So yeah, for me, it's that I will watch it again. I know that I'm going to be like watching it again. I love watching it on the park. I was like, this is perfect, about like perfect length, perfect enjoyment of this. But it's like I will watch it even tomorrow. I would be willing to just watch it with other friends tomorrow. I'll be down for it.
Yeah, that's true. I would watch this with my husband if he came home tonight and wanted to.
Yeah. Could you recommend it?
Oh, well, yeah. I would recommend this to everyone.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that is like it's so easy to recommend that it makes you think is like why don't we recommend other cinema? That is like, it makes like a bit more of a gold standard about like it's so easy to watch. There are no like.
But as you said, this is like a major studio production, so there's nothing like overtly offensive about it. But it ends up having a fantastic story, message, filmmaking.
It's a bit more like, as I was telling you, the planets aligning about like this is supposed to be like mainstream consumption. That is like, this is dumb. It's a blockbuster. It's like, no, it's good. It's actually genuinely good. Is there? Sorry, would you remember it?
Yeah, I had only forgotten a few minor details, but overall, this is a very memorable film for me.
For me, I have forgotten completely like the part that Ingrid Bergman was married to Victor Laszlo. I think it's embarrassing, but I have forgotten it. It was like, yeah, she comes back with a guy, but I don't remember what is the role of it.
But you remember there was like a love triangle. Like,
yeah,
the details I don't think is a big deal if you forget them.
Yeah, but it was a bit more of a surprise. About like, I remember almost everything on Citizen Kane, for example, for just mentioning like the other movie of like classic Hollywood. And like
that's an interesting comparison because I remember absolutely nothing about Citizen Kane beyond Rosebud. That's it. I couldn't even tell you the basic plot at this point.
Did you remember where Rosebud was?
It was a sleigh that he loved
when he was a kid.
When he was a kid, yeah.
It was the only thing that he couldn't. It was the only thing that he couldn't buy with money. You know, it was his childhood that was lost.
Yeah.
Right. But again, in any case, I don't think that we're going to be like recording about Citizen Kane. So, spoiler alert. You know, we just fuck you up. Sadly, is there anything artistic about it?
I would say the script is particularly good. The direction is extremely competent. In fact, before we were recording, we kind of mentioned Steven Spielberg, where it's incredibly functional, but there's nothing mind-blowing about it. So overall, I would say the script. The script is what stands out to me as the most artistic.
I agree with you. The script is like the thing as adaptation said. I don't think that this is the perfect script, but I think that is like for its time is really good. It's as solid as it gets. But the directing part and the cinematography part, I think that is still good enough. I wouldn't say that it's like, well, I mean, I would actually have like some specific shots like printed and framed because of the importance of this movie as a whole. But it's still good. It's still like, I wouldn't feel like, okay, it's only because it's Casablanca. It's because it's it's golden Hollywood, golden age Hollywood.
Yeah, I would say it's extremely competent. Extremely. Like, it's good. It's not exceptional.
Yeah, so for me, it's a yes. But it's like, it's a yes if I had to just score from 0 to 10, it probably would be like a 7. I was like, yeah, it's artistic. It's artistic, but it's artistic on the Hollywood way.
Yep.
Is it a timeless piece?
Yes, completely. We talked about this. It's a product of its time in the way it treats women and specific stereotypes. But the themes, the message, it still applies today 100%. The fact that we were able to talk about this film in the context of Afghanistan falling to the Taliban, like, yes, this is timeless.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is like, there are not so many movies that they take place in war, in a wartime, and they don't try to be as greedy as possible. It's like most of the movies they try to go exactly the Catherine Bigelow road, and it's like, this is not as direct as that. It's like, I think that that's exceptional. That's like, there are not so many movies that they are smart enough for just displaying a different reality. And from that perspective, I think that this is something that it portrays the kind of anguish of fear of something that is not here, but it may actually just jump here at any point. And it's from that perspective that there is never going to be like a period like that. Okay. And
I love that you pointed that out, because that distinction in my mind about how war isn't here, but it could be, like, shifts things kind of dramatically about how I think about this film.
Yeah. Would you turn this into a TV show?
I wouldn't change a thing about this, not one.
But that's not the question. That's the next question.
I would not turn this into a TV show.
Okay, why not?
I think the story itself is it's enough. It's everything that I needed to hear. I just can't imagine building out several storylines or developing characters that were slightly looked over. I mean, yes, I would like to learn more about Sam, but besides that, like, This is a complete story to me. I don't need more. I don't need less.
But the part about Sam is a bit more of a weakness on the script. It's not about like I need more. It's a bit more like
you could have developed the black guy.
It's like, come on. It's like the black guy was not a talking black guy. It's like this is surreal that you have like a black guy playing the piano in Morocco. For me, it's actually a yes. But it's what I told you, is that I would turn it into a TV show that is like Casablanca, and it's like in every single episode we have like the reality of different people that they are trapped there. I want to see like the people that they actually decided to just like, okay, this is my life now until the end of my days, you know, and people that they are desperate to actually run away from their reality.
So I'm not changing my answer, but now that you say that, there's another woman that approaches Rick for the letters, and I did think I would like to hear more about her story. So again, my answer is still no, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, for me, it would be like just similar to the Romanov, but properly made. The Romanov is a good idea, but it's like it's just an excuse for doing random stories that you can just display.
Like 2 out of the 9 episodes.
But those 2 episodes were amazing. You know, the ones that they were. Yeah, the ones that they were good were fucking incredible. But the problem is like you didn't need to try to connect it with the Romanovs. That's as weak as it gets.
Just make it Black Mirror, guys. Just make it Black Mirror.
Exactly. But I think they actually have a material here. They have like a leitmotif that they could use for so many, as a vehicle of so many different stories. That is like, yeah, and then you go for the melodrama Hollywood golden age. It's cool, yeah. Nice. Good job.
Quick question, do you think you have more or less tolerance for American melodrama than Spanish melodrama?
And that's a really good question. And I think that I'm a bit biased because, for example, like with Quien Te Cantará,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
I know. I said that movie is true that it has like quite a bit of melodrama load. But come on, is that just think about like the Hollywood melodrama. Is that do you think that the deranged daughter of a woman could actually cut her throat in front of her and just leave blood all around? Is that would never happen in Hollywood melodrama?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a different scale, I guess.
Yeah, it's a different scale. Like, okay, yeah, we are not afraid of just going into some nitty-gritty areas here.
Committing to the melodrama.
Yeah, it's that, you know, it's like this is not like, you know, middle of the road melodrama. It's like we want like how bad can it get? Is that, and that from that perspective is like Hollywood keeps it like pretty wide, you know, like pretty
family-friendly melodrama.
Yeah, is a pretty, you know, like acceptable. And that's the perspective that I think that actually no one could remake Casablanca as a movie, but it could be remade as a TV show.
I would agree with that, to be honest. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and it's a bit more is that you have one episode that is about Rick, that's fine. And then the next one, you actually go to the Blue Parrot owner that he actually settled down there. Is that he actually has that business there. And it's not because I cannot run anywhere else. It's that he actually saw like a business opportunity. And then you run into that woman that is like just crying for getting the papers for the husband. It's like there is like so much that you can do. There are like so many stories here that you can develop. And it's like it's a setting that it will never repeat in time. Is that I find it fascinating what they actually found, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. Do you think that this movie could have been better?
I wouldn't dare to say yes. Here's how you can fix one of the greatest films of all time. So I'm just going to say no. There's no point.
I agree with you. I mean, this is one of those movies that is like, if it was recorded, if it was like just made right now, it would be different. If that would have been better or not, that's completely a question mark. You know, it's like for when it was shot, is that there is no way of making this movie better.
Yeah, I think we have to take into account, again, product of 1941. We're missing that context. Whatever context existed back then, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we were talking about like Black Panther earlier. Is I think that from a representation perspective, that's an amazing Marvel movie. As a movie as a whole, I don't know. You know, you have to just watch it in the future, and maybe in the future it says that, oh my God, is that they actually just open the door for just like proper representation in other areas. It's like this didn't open the door for anything else except like scripts can be better. Scripts can and should be better than this.
That's fair.
Yeah. So should we score this?
We should.
So
this was your pick.
So
I have to score first.
Yep.
I went back and forth about whether this is a 9 or a 9.5. I think ultimately I'm going to land on a 9.
Okay.
But I think it's a fantastic film. I really enjoyed it. This time watching it.
Let's see the next time. So, funny enough, I mean, I'm a bit like torn right now because my score was between an 8 and an 8.5. After I actually gave the justification for why would I turn it into a TV show, I just feel it's such a unique thing that it was not exploited to the full potential because of Hollywood, golden age Hollywood, like just trying to be Hollywood. You know, that is I'm going to go with an 8.5. It's like I'm pretty good. I'm tempted to 9, but it's a bit more of my perspective about like just looking into this. I want it to be more, and it has the potential to be more. Is like there are like so many stories, so many like kind of different narratives that you can do with this, and it will be so easy. You don't need to get like a AAA tier director or a screenwriter. It's like you have everything laid for you. Like, why don't you do it?
But I feel like, not to try and convince you to change your score, you do have to take into account the limitations of the time.
True, but the limitation of the time is like you're going to be misogynist that you try to hide until it's like I cannot think about myself, and then you actually have like the part about like you try to just be melodrama. This could be like way more. This could be a reality about like just try to be like more human. It doesn't matter if they're like man or female or a love triangle. It's like it's about like an impossible time that is never going to be like repeating itself.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. As I said many times, I wished it had been a little bit more gritty to show what the fear of war actually is. So I get what you're saying. Like, I get it.
Yeah, and it's true that it's like, I'm never going to be like completely objective with this movie because I'm watching it as someone that knows how the war ended. You know, and I know like.
Spoiler alert.
What was the spoiler alert? What happened?
Who won? Don't say it. Some people.
Okay. Maybe they don't know it yet. Are we speaking in German? Okay, that's a hint. It's for the audience. It's an exercise for the audience. But that's the part. Is like I usually give like I cut like a lot of slack. It's like I never consider this like one of the best 10 movies ever. I never do it. I always feel like this is a good movie, but I think that it never like just pushed the envelope as Citizen Kane did, for example. Or it never like just played in a smart way with the rules of the system as Sunset Boulevard did.
That's true. This film definitely takes less risks than Citizen Kane or Sunset Boulevard. Those are bolder films.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah.
And this is a bit more of what you said about like, hey, this is Hollywood trying to push the American government. Like, hey, you have to do something, but at the same time, it doesn't, because it's like, well, Victor Laszlo is fine. The guerrilla is coming, you know, it's like the underground fighters, they're going to be like taking over all in Europe. It's like, yeah, just relax. It's like, this is over. It's over in no time. You know.
Stop it! You're making me want to change my score.
Don't change it. I mean, I love that you actually get like a higher score to a golden age Hollywood movie than I did. You know, it's a bit more. It's like it's hard to actually score these movies that they are like classic Hollywood, because we know where Hollywood went. We know where history went, and especially when they are like so. If we were to watch Gone with the Wind, it's a movie that I like, but it's like when you look at it in 2021, it's like this is fucking wrong in so many different levels.
Racist and like misogynistic and
yep, and it's like you can see, you know, why this was so popular, but by nowadays standard, it's like we know that this is no longer like the direction to go, and it's like our purpose when we are scoring is not about like if I were to watch this movie in 1942, what would have scored it. It's not that. It's about like me, Jose, in 2021, an European that has been living 10 years in the States. What is my random score for this one?
Yeah, you can't take into account all the factors that have changed or shifted in the last 70 years. So.
Yeah, and it's a movie that is like pretty easy to actually say. It's like, hey, I have the Criterion Collection here, you know, it's like I love this movie because it makes me look smarter. It's pretty easy to say that because everyone agrees that it's a good movie, and it's a really good movie. If it's like one of the best movies of all time, you have to actually just say only 10. It's not.
Actually, I would completely agree with that. I gave it a very good score because it's a very good film, but I would never put Casablanca on my own personal list of the best films of all time. Yep. Like Loveless, I would put way ahead of this film. Way ahead.
I agree. Yeah. Because Loveless is something that is fucking bold. It gives me like a perspective of the reality of a specific country, even if I don't know it. I don't need to know like a lot of stuff about Russia for actually just understanding that, oh my god, this is fucking weird what is happening here. And with these movies that we discuss, we spend like half of the podcast like just talking about like the reality of World War II.
I noticed that as well. I was like, should we talk more about the movie?
But because part of the value is not about like Hollywood, it's about like the reality of like you're making one of the biggest industries of entertainment, or the biggest industry back then of entertainment, about like doing this movie. It's like it's a powerful move. It's not like Mommy Dearest. Mommy Dearest is the opposite.
And you brought up an excellent point. Like Catherine Bigelow created The Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
Way after that war was a failure, because that was in Iraq, right? And
yep.
This was taking a chance about what way the war will go. Like, that's interesting that they came out with a statement piece before they understood what direction history was going to move.
But the thing is that they don't say where the war is going to go. Is that they actually say that we need to save this guy because maybe he will help to turn the war around in this kind of way. But the funny thing is like it's a bit more is that the States are not going to save the day. They are not. Who is going to be like saving the day?
Russia won that war for everyone.
Well, I mean the Normandy, like the D-Day and everything, it's like maybe it also affects, like a starting safe to the sea. But in any case, what I mean is like the perspective that this movie gives is a bit more about like underground fighters are going to save the day because we don't expect the American government to take a stance.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that reading for sure.
And it's interesting. It's like it's something that is like by nowadays standard, as you say, like Catherine Bigelow or anyone else. It's a bit more about like American number one, and this doesn't say American number one.
No, it really doesn't. In fact, there's nothing pro-American government about it. It's more about who are these people you're with and who's choosing to do the right thing and who's choosing to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, and it's a bit more is like, well, look, at least we know that the States are neutral and they're not going to be aligning with the Nazis anytime soon. And they are like powerful enough that if they try to invade the States, they can defend themselves.
The more we keep talking about this, the more interested I am about the time when it came out. It was such a volatile time. Like things could have gone either way for any way.
Yeah, and that's the part that I find like more interesting, like the most interesting part about this film. It's a bit more like Sunset Boulevard. It's about like the transition from silent to talkies. And Citizen Kane is about like a character that live there, in that time, and about like just criticizing them about like the importance of if you control the media, you can control the public opinion.
Yep.
And that's like timeless. That part is like 100% timeless, And the part about like Sunset Boulevard, you can even like translate it to Mommy Dearest. This one is like, but just because of how Hollywood like just mistreat its female stars, even like nowadays, is that just wait for 10 years, no one's going to be like thinking about Emma Stone.
Don't say that. Don't ever say that.
Who thinks about Jennifer Lawrence nowadays?
I'm just joking. Fans of Darren Aronofsky think about Jennifer Lawrence.
Are they still married?
No, but they made Mother together. How can you?
Yeah, that's timeless. That's a piece of shit that is completely timeless.
That is a story that's been around for 4,000 years. You can't tell me that's not timeless.
Okay. But yeah, so should we actually talk about like what we're watching next?
We should, because this is my pick. I decided to pick the fantastic movie Blade Runner 2049. And then Jose agreed, and then we thought maybe we should watch like the original just to see how it fits into the context of the
Yeah, I mean, probably for the audience, maybe they heard my deep breath. You know that I was thinking about like just Jose, just breath, just relax. I love Blade Runner. Blade Runner is one of my favorite movies ever. I wanted to rewatch Blade Runner 2049 because I remember thinking the photography, the artistic direction is gorgeous on this, but it actually is just a mediocre sequel compared with the
And all joking aside, I wasn't particularly fond of the original Blade Runner. When I saw Blade Runner 2049, I visually was blown away. So this will be an interesting conversation, basically pitting the two against each other. Or maybe I'll learn to see what everyone else sees in the first one.
Maybe. How many times did you watch the original one?
One time.
Only once? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did I tell you that I had like the plastic suitcase with 5 different versions? Oh, you have
got
it there?
It right there. The exact same version. Yep.
So we're watching the director's cut, no? Of the original one.
You tell me. You know more about me. I have every version. You just pick a version. Tell me to watch it. I'll show up.
The one that I want to watch is the one that doesn't have the narration at the beginning by Harrison Ford. The one that has like just the exposure that is like, come on, just shut up, Harrison Ford. And the one, spoiler alert, the one that doesn't end up reusing the signing take when they're like driving away.
Don't ruin this for me.
You know that.
I don't remember any of this.
So probably it was the director's cut. It's like anyone that it has watched it for the first time after 1990, probably there was this version that is like, in the original one, they just drive away. And there's like more exposition by Harrison Ford. It's like, and then we live happily ever after. Because the other replica never expired.
Nope, didn't see that one.
And there is like a overhead take of the car driving away, and they're like in Washington State. And it's like, if you actually knew that, is from the signing. Is that is the opening scene when they're like just driving, the whole family is like driving is the same car and everything. And they just reuse we want a happy ending, just use that.
Well, that's what we're watching next.
But the director cut. So to all those 5 people that are listening to us, thank you so much for listening.
And wash your hands, and if you're not vaccinated, get fucking vaccinated. What the hell?
Yeah. Is that don't waste your time like just listening to our podcast. Get vaccinated.
Just go to Walgreens, man.
Okay, bye.